Hey, today we will we're going to review what it means to be holistic learners. Specifically, we're looking at the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor learning domains, and then also how to go about writing learning objectives associated with each of those. So, why do we say holistic learning? Well, because every one of us are made in the image of God as thinkers, feelers, and doers. Now, to be sure, we will all lean towards one way or the other. Your students, your learners will lean towards one another, but we're all thinkers, feelers, and doers. It works in a synergistic way, all connecting us. And Jesus, being the master teacher, he is able to teach to that automatically in his divinity. As he was teaching, he was a master crafter of his lessons, of his sermons, of his questioning. Everything he was able to minister to all thinkers, feelers, and doers perfectly. We're not able to do that. So we need to understand what it means to be thinkers, feelers, and doers, specifically operating in the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains. And then what it looks like for us to write learning outcomes associated with each of those. And so we say we're holistic learners and we want to foster learning in the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains. Why? Because we're thinkers, feelers, and doers as people. When we talk about the cognitive domain, we're talking about renewing our mind. And Bloom's taxonomy takes us into the cognitive domain and helps us see that as we're starting to help learners learn and grow, we have to tailor our lessons from the lowest level of remembering and walk our learners up to the final level of cognitive domain and the learning level is creation. And we cannot also, we can't teach to the level of remembering and then test and expect to the level of create. So we have to find ways to move our students up to that. So what are some ways we go about doing that? When we look at his cognitive domain, we look at his theory, we see, and we're going to just walk through this. Remember. What does it mean to remember? Well, we're recalling basic facts and concepts. What does it mean to understand? We're explaining ideas or concepts clearly. So you're moving beyond the recall and simply listing facts like make a list of 10 things. And we're moving to understanding. You're able to understand the ideas behind the list, the concepts behind the list. Well, then we move next to apply, and we're going to use the information, not just in the situations that we have them, but you have a situation. Let's say you learn how to change the oil in a 1998 Honda Civic, right? Well, then somebody pulls up in a 2002 Corvette. It's a whole different car, but yet it has many of the same parts. So you know how to change the oil, you know the steps to change the oil, you know what to do, but you don't know what it necessarily looks like on this Corvette. But you can use the knowledge you've had and apply it in a new situation to correctly and properly change the oil in that Corvette, right? So then we want to move to analyze. What does analyze? It simply means to break apart information. So you're looking at a whole thing and you want to pull it apart, and we're able to see and analyze the different parts of that problem. Then we want to evaluate. We make judgments based on the evidence found. And then finally, we want to create. We compile information and we want to generate new solutions. The affective domain, we want to change the heart. Starts by receiving, then responding, then valuing, then organizing, and then characterizing. So let's walk through each of these together as well. So from the affective domain, we want to receive. What it means to receive, it means to listen or read, but in a passive mode. I'm not responding to what's being given to me. I'm just simply receiving it. Then, as we move up the affective domain ladder, I want to respond. I'm going to inquire. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to find out more about what's going on. So I move from passive to active. So I hear what you're saying. I don't necessarily grasp it yet, so I'm going to ask some clarifying questions. Then I'm going to move to valuing. I'm going to attach importance and worth to the information gained. So what you told me, do I understand it? Does it make sense to me? Does it fit in my pattern of valuing? And if it does, I'm gonna do that. Then we're gonna organize. I'm gonna accept different viewpoints and compare and relate them with other values. And so what does this mean? It means I'm gonna take what I have and I'm gonna grab a hold of it and I'm gonna use it, but I'm gonna be able to take what I have and look at what you have and see the differences and still value what I have. Then I'm going to characterize, I'm going to internalize, and I'm going to believe the new value. So I'm going to take it, what you gave me was so powerful, was so impactful to me, it's going to change the way I value things going forward. All right? So the psychomotor domain. We're going to change, we went from changing the mind, the renewing the mind, right, with cognitive, to renewing the heart. And now we're going to change the action with the psychomotor domain. So we're going to look at this. And so when we talk about changing our actions, there's several steps involved. And it's just like it is with the other levels of learning. We're going to perception, we're going to perceive. I'm going to see an awareness. I'm going to be aware of something that is happening, that is taking place. I'm going to get set. I'm going to be ready to act. So not just physically ready to act, but cognitively ready to act to be able to do what I need to do. Then I'm going to have a guided response. It's an early stage of learning through imitation. So think of a doctor doing surgery. He's going to do a surgery. He's going to do this procedure, and then the student, then the other doctor, the one in the learning position, is going to do that along with that doctor. She's going to move along with the doctor and learn that, and he's going to guide it through modeling, imitation. Then we see mechanism. I'm going to demonstrate basic proficiency through repetition. I'm going to build confidence. So a football player is trying to learn how to run a post route. So you're going to run 10 yards, and then you're going to slant in towards the goal post, towards the middle of the field. Well, you're going to do that the first few times. You're not going to get your cuts right. You're not going to get your speed right. The timing's going to be off. Maybe you don't catch the ball well. And so you don't have a lot of confidence in yourself. Through mechanism, you're going to continue to do it. You're going to get your 100 reps a day in. And in a month, you're going to be able to run that route very well. And you're going to have confidence in that route based on the repetition that you've run. Then we move to complex overt response. So it develops in speed, accuracy, and efficiency. So I can not only run that route, but I'm not clunky in running that route. I'm able to do it fast. I'm able to do it well. I'm able to do it in a manner that saves my time and energy and breath, and able to time it well with the quarterback and hit me at the same time. Then we have adaptation. I'm able to modify my skills to new situations. We talked a little bit about changing oil, right? Then we have origination. So I'm not just been able to, we'll go back to the football example. I'm not just able to run a post route, but because I'm got so good at this, I'm able to adjust mid-route and run different fakes and different switches to get back to the post because I'm so confident in what I'm doing. So when we think about this, we're integrating head, heart, and hands. We have the cognitive, critical thinking skills. We have the affective, we're emotional engagement, we're feeling. We have the psychomotor, we're doing practical application. So let's look at writing some learning objectives for each of these, okay? So cognitive, the thinking domains for outcomes. So we have remembering. What is remembering? It means summoning forth facts and foundational concepts. So a few examples of this. I want to enumerate, I want to list out sacred text. I want to recognize, remember that recall. I want to recollect the steps. I'm going to understand what they are. I'm going to remember them. I'm going to put them down. Then I'm going to have to understand. I'm going to explain ideas or concepts. Some examples of learning outcomes. I want to summarize. I want to explain the main points. I want to describe how photosynthesis works. So I'm not just remembering the steps of something. I'm able to describe them. So if you were asking learners to write this out, say you have a long form question on a test, one question may be list the steps. And then another question might be describe the steps. Now that may sound like the exact same question, but it's not, because it's showing a deeper level of learning. They're not just listing them. They're able to describe in a sentence or two, explain in a sentence or two how those steps interact with each other, right? I want to apply, I want to use the information I have in a new situation. I want to use the biblical principles to resolve a classroom conflict scenario. I want to apply the formula. I want to demonstrate how to perform CPR, so I'm applying this new information. Now we're going to look at analyze. I want to draw connections among ideas. So I'm comparing and contrasting Paul's and James's view on justification. I'm able to analyze a piece of literature using a biblical worldview. So take what I know about the Bible, take what I know about Christian understanding, about what God says, who He is, who we are, and able to look at a piece of literature and see and explain that, extrapolate out to that. Distinguish between two different types of reasoning. Evaluate. I want to justify a decision or a course of action. Defend, assess, critique. And remember, I will have attached in this for each of these learning domains and levels of learning, different verbs you can use to help write these learning outcomes for your students and your learners. Finally, creation. We're taking the cognitive learning domain. We're wanting to get to create or produce original work, compose a reflective essay, design a Bible study, create a multimedia presentation. So when we think about cognitive and learning domains, this is what it looks like and entails as far as writing learning objectives, kind of having a grasp on that. Next, we'll talk about the affective and the feeling domains of learning, writing outcomes. So the receiving, the learner is aware of or passively attends to certain stimuli or phenomena. They listen attentively. They show interest in class discussions and acknowledge the importance of prayer in daily life. One of the most difficult things about writing learning outcomes for the affective domain is it's hard for us as individuals to gauge whether they are doing it within the class. So we have to write these learning domains when it comes from the feeling domain, the affective domain, almost in a, I hope this will happen. I'm gearing towards this. This is the goal of this for their values to change. And it's really hard as a teacher, especially if you're in an institution, if you're teaching for a college or you're teaching for a high school or elementary school, to write learning objectives that are measurable in the affective domain. It's very, very difficult. And some would even say impossible to do, because how can you metric a feeling, right? So we start off on the receiving end. Next, we're going to go to the responding. So what does it mean to respond? We're actively participating. We're reacting to a particular phenomenon. We're getting more information. We're volunteering to read. We're participating. We're asking thoughtful questions. When we're valuing, I'm going to attach worth or value to this thing you gave me, to this behavior, to this information. So what does that mean? What does it look like to attach value? I'm going to demonstrate commitment to personal Bible study. Again, what does demonstrate commitment mean? That's something that you're going to have to determine what that looks like for you in your particular situation. I'm going to express the importance of integrity. Again, what does it look like to express? See, these are kind of abstract when we get to the affective and the feeling. I want to support the idea. Again, we see this as abstraction. What does it like to support the idea of something? Organizing, I'm going to integrate different values. I'm going to resolve conflicts between those values, and I want to build a consistent value system for myself. Now, the reality is most people never get to this level of learning from the affective domain in their level of maturity. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's really hard for them to take their current value system, to take in new information, to assess their current value system with the new information, to sift out what is less valuable, to take in what is now more valuable, and then to go on and living with this new value system. Most people never do. That's why when you see in churches, revitalization of churches, replanting of churches is so difficult and hard, because people are having to do a new value system, have to reorganize their values, right? They have to reprioritize, they have to integrate, they have to justify a lot of things that's going on in their lives. Finally, we get to characterizing. I'm going to learn to act consistently with my internalized values. I'm going to demonstrate a lifestyle rooted in those values. So I didn't just go and organize, but I'm now going to exhibit. I'm going to live out. I'm going to have this new identity. I'm going to display these things. So we've covered the cognitive learning domains as far as learning outcomes. We've looked at the affective learning domains as far as outcomes. Now we're going to finally look at psychomotor, or the doing domains rather. So perception, I'm going to use my sensory cues to guide my motor activity. What do I see? What do I smell? What do I touch? What do I taste? What do I hear? Right? I want to detect, I want to recognize, I want to identify. Set, I'm going to be ready, mentally ready, physically ready, and emotionally ready to engage this activity. Because think about this. Well, I'm going to give you a really easy example. With my 8-year-old, he is a hyper dude, right? He's the youngest of 4, and he is all over the place. And if he's to cross the room and I tell him to do a specific activity, so Jacob, I need you to go outside and get your shoes that are outside and take them and put them in your bedroom. Look, if he is not looking at me, if he has not stopped what he's doing, he may hear me, but he ain't listening to me. So what I've learned with him, and this is good practice for anybody, really, but especially for my son in this situation, right? I have to say, Jacob, look, hey, look me in the face. We say, look me in the face. Let me see your eyes. I want him to be ready. When his eyes meet my eyes, I know he's mentally, physically, and sometimes somewhat emotionally engaged in what I'm about to tell him. So we want to be set, help our learners be set and ready to do that. Then we're going to have a guided response. And so we want to imitate, we want to model, so there can be this is the right way to do something. Don't just tell what to do, but show what to do. So follow these instructions, practice these guitar progressions, complete the first steps, right? This guided response with feedback and back and forth to learn and critique and clarify. Then we're going to have mechanism. What this simply means is I'm still kind of clunky in doing it, but I'm able to do it. I'm slowly building habits. I'm building confidence. I'm building effectiveness and efficiency in what I'm doing. So what this may look like for you in your church is you've been walking with someone through a Bible study for a while. You've maybe let them lead the introduction to a Bible study. Maybe you've helped them, they've helped you lead an activity for a Bible study. And then you say, all right, hey, next week, June 8th, I'm going out of town for the Southern Baptist Convention. I'm going to need you to step up and lead this Bible study, right? This is how this works. They've got some basic skills, and now you want to help them hone those skills and craft them and become even more confident in those skills. Then we have a complex overt response. So we're moving from this clunky mechanism to now I'm smooth, I'm efficient, I can perform, I can deliver, I can execute with perfection of this. And finally, adaptation. We say modify motor skills to fit special situations. So I'm taking what I'm doing and I'm able to adjust it, adapt it, and alter it to what I'm doing. And then we got this creation, or we would even say origination. I'm creating new movements or patterns or performance routines on what I am doing. So as we've looked at this, we've looked at everything we wanted to do, and really just a short snapshot when it comes to learning theory and levels of learning within the individual learning domain. In our next video within this session, we're going to look at learning motivation as well, because when we talk about learning theory, when we talk about writing and learning objectives, we have to understand the role motivation plays within that. And there'll also be, there's a regular PowerPoint attached to this as well, and also some other documents you want to view. God bless.